Hey everybody, this is Taj Dashaun, the founder of Thrive After Sports, and today I'm here as a proud representative of Athlete Soul. This is a very exciting programming going on at Athlete Soul right now. It excites me to know that we're living in a time where you can go from being a scholarship athlete or a professional athlete and now get a scholarship to have guidance and support throughout your transition into the next stages of your life. And one of the greatest things about that is that that's now available through Athlete Soul, thanks to the hard work of our wonderful founder, Miriam Glass, making these resources available to former athletes. And I'm here today with a very special guest, someone who I've had the pleasure of working with through Athlete Soul, Emily Savino. What's going on, Emily?
Not much. Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking some time. I know that by you sharing your story, there's going to be a lot of other athletes listening in right now that are going to be able to hear themselves in your story. And I'm sure you're going to share some things that'll be able to help that next generation of athletes that's coming up behind us. So just to kind of give everyone a little bit of background, Emily and I connected somewhere around the holidays in 2020. Both of us had a lot of different things going on, and we weren't able to actually do some coaching at that time. And what ended up happening, like I said, Miriam Glass did a phenomenal job of fundraising through Athlete Soul, and some resources became available to put athletes, former athletes, on scholarship to get some transition coaching. And so one of the first people that crossed my mind, because I remember Emily and I had such a great conversation, I was like, Emily would be perfect for this. So I reached back out, she connects with Miriam. We get a scholarship for Emily to be able to do some coaching. And, this is, you fast forward about 2 months later, and we've been able to get a lot of work done. And Emily, I just want to tell you, publicly while we're recording here, it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. People like you make my job super easy. And this is why I love working with athletes, because we would meet up on our calls, do some coaching, and you would take it and run with it. So that makes me excited when we get back together and I'm like, oh, Emily's killing it right now, going above and beyond the things that we talked about. But let's just start out with this. I think it would be beneficial for people to hear. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you faced when your basketball career ended and you were trying to map out those next stages of your life? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, thank you, Taj, for everything you've done these past couple of weeks. This has really been a great experience, and it came at the best possible time. So thank you for that. I mean, as far as my career goes, so I graduated in 2013, so that's 8 years ago now. And since then, I had a job at ESPN. I worked there for a couple years, had some really great experience, and was still trying to figure out my path. Like, obviously, that was like a dream job for me, just working there and, just working with everybody there and learning from some really great people in the industry. But it just didn't feel like me, which was a hard pill to swallow because, I'm sure a lot of people, that's like the apex of a lot of people's careers. But after that, I decided I wanted to go back to school and get my master's in athletic administration, because I really missed that community feel of being involved in an athletic department, because that's where I grew so much as a student athlete in college. So I wanted to be back in that environment. So I got my master's last year, obviously during COVID. So that was tough, because I kind of had to pivot and figure out, what can I do in the interim until I can get a position in college athletics. And while I was there and in the job that I previously worked at, I really found that event planning, and in working with Taj also, I really found that running events and like being involved with people and doing all of things of that nature that really lit me up. And so I'm on this path now where I'm really trying to explore that, and that's been really exciting for me. So I'm excited to see what the future holds, because I'm trying to break out of that shell of being the athlete, because that's how people have always perceived me as. I'm sure a lot of former athletes deal with the same thing, but I've always wanted more than that. And maybe it's event planning outside of sports. It doesn't necessarily have to be in that sports bubble. So, I feel like I've made great strides and great progress, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that, Emily. One of the things that I wanted to touch on was how you said, you come out, you finish your basketball career in college, and you immediately go into this role with ESPN. And I remember that from one of our first conversations. That's a dream job. That's something that people would kill for. And, something that you thought was going to be, hey, this is my career. And what a great way to like land a gig with ESPN fresh off your career. But yet, like many athletes, you find yourself like, oh, this is not necessarily the life that I envisioned for myself, even though it may have seemed great. And it's one of those things where until you're actually completely done playing and you're in your career, you're not necessarily going to know. So thank you for sharing that, because it really just shows that it does take some time to figure it out, to land on your feet and to find clarity around what you want. And I think that, you've done a phenomenal job of doing that too, not just because this is the philosophy from the beginning. My philosophy and the mission of Athlete Soul is not just, to help former athletes find a job or to place you in a job. We're not a recruiting or a job placement agency. This is about your life. This is about finding something that you can wake up every day and be just as excited about as you were when you were playing basketball. And like, that's the goal, is for you to find that. So I wanted to ask you too, what are some things do you feel that you had to overcome during these past couple of months of you going through the Athlete Soul curriculum? What are some things that maybe were hindering you from finding that clarity, or maybe just some things that were, I guess, preventing you from having more of a role in the creation of where it is that you're going on your life path?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that comes to mind for me, being a former athlete and being a point guard and being a leader on my team, I have very high standards for myself. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to be a certain way. And this is how I should be, because I got a degree in sport management and I just got my master's in athletic administration. So I need to get a job in that field because that's what I went to school for. But that's not always the case. I think that's, I've definitely, over these past few months, I've definitely opened my eyes up to other avenues. And that don't necessarily have to be in those little boxes. I think, like I said, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I hold myself to high standards, which is not a bad thing. And I think it's okay to recognize that too. But just trying to be easier on myself and giving myself more credit for what I have accomplished. Because this is a journey. It's not a sprint. This is something that is like, it's going to take a while to kind of map out, and I'm not always going to have it figured out right in this moment, which I think is a beautiful thing too. Just discovering what I like, what I don't like, and just realizing that it'll happen in the right time. So I think just being more aware of things like that, I've definitely become more aware through this process, and as I look to map out my future.
Yeah, there's so much there, Emily. First of all, I love that you talked about it's okay to hold yourself to a high standard, right? And it's important to maintain that thing that made us great as athletes, to maintain that in everyday life. But it's so important that it's applied to the right thing, And you talked about other avenues, which I love that you touched on as well, because so many athletes, and we've talked about this many times, so many athletes are afraid to branch out and try other things. It's immediately they want to coach or they want to go into a role there's nothing wrong with that. But like we always talk about, you have so many other gifts that need to be explored and, cultivated, even created, like creating those things that light you up. And have you seen that once you're able to tap into those things and find clarity, it makes it easier for you to start taking that athletic mindset and applying it to the things that you start to discover about yourself once you're like, oh, I do like doing this, or that would be pretty cool. Do you find that having the clarity makes it easier to start applying yourself in that direction?
Yeah, definitely. I also think like, this is a function of being an athlete too, like setting goals for yourself. And they don't have to be big goals, but trying to achieve things in small batches too. I think that's helpful for me because that gives me something to strive for, um, instead of just, I'm somebody that really needs structure. And I think I've definitely learned that over the course of this program and the past, year or so, that I really need that. And having a goal in mind and trying to reach for that goal, is definitely something that's beneficial for me.
Yeah. Okay. So you're dropping so many gems, Emily. This is why I wanted to have you on. See, now you see, folks. Now you see why I wanted to have Emily on. You talked about small batches, and I had to write that down because that was so good. And I think that a lot of athletes, myself included, I'm speaking from experience. When I was done playing, I felt like just because I was at the top of my field in football, that I should be the CEO somewhere, or someone's just waiting to give me, $500,000 just because, I'm Taj. And so when you talk about small batches and celebrating those small wins, I think that's so important for people to hear, because just making strides is enough for you to take a moment to celebrate yourself. Like, you and I had so many moments where it'd be like, oh, this happened this week, or this happened this week, or I had this idea. And, it's just a beautiful thing to watch it unfold. I'd like to take a second just to see if you have any advice, for athletes right now who may have just graduated, or maybe they just been out in the real world, post athletics for a couple of years. What advice can you give to those athletes or those people about finding clarity around creating that next chapter?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid to try different things. I mean, especially if you're in a job that really doesn't bring you joy, and you struggle to, just get up and go to work and, be productive at what you're doing. I think it's okay to really look inside, like look within yourself and really ask yourself if this is something that brings me joy. And if it doesn't, then it's okay to look elsewhere and maybe in a different field that you think you might be able to apply your skills to. So I think, not being afraid to, I think there's a stigma around so-called job hopping or, just being in a couple different positions, but I think that's become more accepted these days. And I think it's okay, because how else are you going to know what you like? And, I think that's all part of the journey, just figuring out, being in different positions, being in different companies, knowing, something working in the corporate world might not be for everybody. And that doesn't have to be your only path. So I think, like I said, my biggest thing would just be, don't be afraid to try new things, and don't be afraid to leave a job, even though this is what you're meant to do. So I think, for me, that would have been nice to hear, coming right out of college. So definitely, don't be afraid and just do what drives you.
Right. Man, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, strong advice right there. I wanted to talk about this too, because like you said, you graduated in 2013. I graduated from college in 2013 as well. So the transition, a lot of times people think it's just like, oh, when you're fresh out of college, you're 21, 22 years old. No, the transition is something that is ongoing. I think that you will even have all of us will have multiple transitions in our lives. Like I'm doing this right now. I love what I'm doing. There may come a time where I may transition into a different career, or, some variation of what I'm doing. I say all that to say, for those listening and listening to what Emily is sharing with us, it's not a one and done. It's not an overnight thing, and you can be at any age. I talk to people who are in their 30s and 40s and still feeling like they're in the transition because they still don't know who they are. So whatever age you are, don't hesitate to reach out, and get help. And speaking of that, Emily, you're someone who you've always, well, I can't say always because I just met you last year, but since I've known you, you're someone who seeks out guidance and help. You're not just sitting around, you're not like I was trying to figure everything out on your own and thinking you have to be the lone wolf. In your opinion, why is it important that no matter what stage someone is at during their transition, why is it important that you seek out guidance and seek out, coaching or mentorship during that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously I don't know everything, right? I'm 7 or 8 years into my professional career. And yes, I have experience, but there's a lot of people out there who can provide me with more experience or more better mentorship. I think that's something I've always looked for, is to have a mentor, to have a network of people that I can rely on, because you can't do it all on your own. And I think, I'm always someone too that I love learning. I love learning from other people, working with other people. And obviously, really in any industry, it's all about who you know. It comes back to that, no matter if you're in the sports industry or if you're in a different industry. Connections are so important. And I think just being able to connect with people and really foster relationships and to get to know people so I can grow too. And I think that's only going to benefit me in the long run.
Yeah, I think something that I always talk about is it's like we go from being a part of this tight knit group as athletes with our team and all this staff and support system around us, like you talked about earlier, the structure. And then a lot of us, myself included, I'm speaking from personal experience once again, you go from being in that team environment to now I'm just going to do it all by myself. I don't need people. I don't want people to know that I don't have it all figured out. So, I'm just going to isolate. And that really that leads nowhere. And I know a lot of athletes who are going through that right now. So I think your advice is super meaningful. And I appreciate you sharing that, because people need to hear that. They need to hear that you really need to reach out for help. It's not even about Athlete Soul. It's not about me. It's about finding someone, even if that's a family member, and just saying, hey, this is what I'm dealing with right now. I need some help. Or if you're having trouble finding clarity, like Emily is saying to you guys, just reach out to people, figure out who's doing something similar to what you want to do and get some advice until you're able to create your own version of that, So what's next, Emily? I know we talked about, you've started to figure out who you are outside of basketball. And obviously, I know in your current role, you're still doing some things in the basketball arena, but you've also started to develop other parts of your life that are more business related or more true to who you are, bringing people together for experiences. What do you see? What's the future of Emily Savino? We could talk short term, we could talk long term. What comes to mind with that one?
Man, that's always such a tough question. But I think, in the short term, I definitely see myself running events with members of the community. I think like lifting up local businesses to being in like some sort of marketing role, just where I can be involved with people and really, really see that I'm making a difference. And, at some point, I think I would like to travel and expand that into other areas of the country or even the world at some point. I think that's definitely what I see for me. And I think, too, I still want to keep my basketball roots in some sense and give back to the younger generation and be a mentor for younger girls, especially in sports, because I think having those female role models is so important. I know I certainly didn't have enough when I was growing up and playing sports. Just having that female presence and giving them something that they can relate to and just kind of helping that younger generation of female athletes along the way. And giving them guidance in terms of, what the landscape looks like for college, and obviously after college, because as we know, basketball doesn't continue forever. So it's really just trying to paint that picture and, create programs that offer leadership skills and things of that nature. So that's kind of what I see on the horizon. But I feel like, we talk about this all the time, Taj. Like, I feel like I'm on the cusp of something great, and I'm really excited to see what happens in the next couple of years.
Yeah, Emily, and I'm beyond excited for you because, like I always tell you, you're just getting started. And I know you just started a new job, you got a wedding coming up, so you have a lot on your plate right now. And I feel like once you get on the other side of the wedding, because I know that's taking up so much of your bandwidth, that's when you're just gonna skyrocket and those ideas are gonna start flowing. So I'm excited for you, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. Like I said at the beginning, you've been an absolute pleasure to work with. And it's not just, we work together for this allotted amount of time, but I'm in your corner for life, cheering for you, wanting to see you win. And I want to acknowledge you too, just for being a go-getter and just having the courage to go after what it is that you want in life and not just settling. That baller, that leader who existed on the court is now really starting to emerge and being able to take action in everyday life. And it's a beautiful thing to see. So I've been trying to avoid saying like I'm proud of people because it almost sounds like something a parent would say. So instead of saying I'm proud of you, Emily, I'm just going to tell you that I'm inspired by you, by who you are, and watching your growth, and even more inspired and excited to watch it unfold. So with that being said, I know other people want to tap in and follow the journey. So how can people? I don't know if you want to talk about the Revival Room and stuff. How people can follow all those social media there, all your social media. Can you just tell people how to follow the journey or get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the Revival Room, that's the fitness studio that I'm working with right now. Actually, my fiance owns the business. So it's, yoga, wellness, personal training, fitness classes, all the above. So we're looking to add some fun events this summer. So on Instagram, it's at Revive Yoga and Fitness, and it's the Revival Room on Facebook. So looking to bring the community together and start to really get our name out there, not just in Connecticut where we are, but also in neighboring states and hopefully in the rest of the country as well. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to thank you, Emily, again for just taking some time to share today, especially on a Saturday, for taking time out of your day, because the people who listen to this, whether it's now or 5-10 years from now, and they hear how you were able to begin the process of carving out a lane for yourself after your basketball career, that's why we're doing this. So I appreciate you taking that time. And for anybody here with us, I just want to encourage you, like Emily was saying, you don't have to do everything on your own. There are plenty of resources. Obviously, I'm here on behalf of Athlete Soul, and I want to encourage you to just reach out. I mean, you don't even have to come out of pocket for it. You have former athletes, not just me. I'm one of the coaches with Athlete Soul. And of course, I have my own business, Thrive After Sports, but there's so many great people with the team. Emily, you've had a pleasure to talk to Miriam, the founder of Athlete Soul. Mm-hmm. Get in touch, reach out. Do not hesitate to reach out and get support. There are plenty of people like myself out there who want to help you. So take advantage of that and make sure you get the guidance so that you don't have to do it all on your own. Be more like Emily and less like me when I graduated from college, trying to just do it by myself. But yeah, with that being said, Emily, any parting words for any athletes in transition who may be listening?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing, definitely check out Athlete Soul. Don't be afraid to reach out to Taj. That's what I did on LinkedIn. That's kind of how this all started. Just, don't be afraid, follow your dreams and don't settle. I really appreciate this opportunity because it's opened up my eyes to a lot of different things. And I've learned more about myself along the way. So thank you, Taj, and thank you to Athlete Soul. This has been a great experience, and I hope more athletes can benefit from this program like I did.
Well, you are very welcome, Emily. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna let you enjoy your Saturday. Thank you again for spending some time, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Taj.
All right, thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks.